Some men laugh at sin, make a sport of sin. But the Holy Ghost tells us they are fools. Sin is the devil's vomit, the soul's excrement, the worst of all evils, the scum, the superfluity of evils.
In 1692, in the town of Salem, Massachusetts, a hysteria of witchcraft accusations led to 20 innocent people being put to death. In May, a group of young girls claimed to be possessed by the devil and accused innocent women of being witches. If you were accused of being a witch, the people believed the devil gave you supernatural powers to harm the people in the town. The girls pretended to act possessed by contorting their bodies in unnatural ways and displaying other strange symptoms. The Puritans feared the girls' symptoms so much because they believed that physical realities had spiritual causes. So they believed that the only possible reason for these events to be happening was that the town was using the devil's powers to turn other people away from God. The women accused of witchcraft were put on trial, found guilty, and sentenced to death or thrown in jail. There are multiple trials held, and although all of them lack solid evidence, out of fear, 20 people were wrongfully put to death.
Guilty.
The true story of the Salem witch hunt.
And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive them that trespass against us.
During the trials, the court used was called the Court of Oyer and Terminer. In the court, there were no trained lawyers on the bench, and all were very biased in the belief of the devil trying to turn people away from Puritanism. Anyone accused had no defense attorneys but were allowed to call witnesses to the court. The court did not use the principle innocent until proven guilty, so if you were put on trial, you were automatically presumed guilty. The court relied on 3 types of evidence: the confession, the testimonies from the 3 eyewitnesses, and spectral evidence. The typical process during the trials was the afflicted person would make a complaint. The person is examined and taken into custody. The magistrate listens to the person's testimony, and if thought guilty, he or she would be sent to jail and await a trial. It is presented to a jury, and depositions are entered into evidence. He or she is tried by the Court of Oyer and Terminer, and a jury decides if he or she is guilty or not. The defendant is given their sentence and has to serve their sentence. Sarah Buckley was brought from England to Ipswich, Mass. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony as a child. She joined the Ipswich Church in 1650 and married a yeoman named William Buckley. Together they moved to the Marblehead area of Salem, where they acquired a home, and Sarah became a church member in Salem. In around 1675, Buckley was sued for unpaid debts. The man that sued her was the governor of Massachusetts and also was formerly from Ipswich. Because of this, William Buckley lost his house and land, so they moved to the Salem village. In 1680, Buckley was sued once again for unpaid debts from their son, and he lost all of his cobbler's tools, leaving the family helpless and unable to produce an income. May 3, 1692, a complaint for witchcraft was filed by Lieutenant Nathaniel Ingersoll of Salem Village, and a warrant was issued the same day. Sarah and her widowed daughter, Mary Withridge, were arrested for being accused of witchcraft. Ann Putman and Mary Walcott accused them of witchcraft. They said that the women's specters had attacked them during the night. Sarah was examined for witches' marks on May 18th and was then held in prison. The primary witnesses against them were the afflicted girls. Despite her family's hardships, Sarah was held in high regard by those who knew her personally. Reverend William Hubbard of Ipswich was known as the man with the knell. Ann Putman had claimed Sarah Buckley had tormented and threatened her. Ann said Buckley would kill Putman if she did not write in Sarah's book of witches. When Ann first met Sarah, she said Sarah had never displayed any signs of being a witch until April 23, 1692, Sarah's specter had come to haunt Ann. Ann made people believe that Sarah was really a witch and she had inflicted her witchcraft upon her. 3 people who testified for Sarah Buckley: William Hubbard, John Hankinson, and Samuel Sheaver. In the testimony from William Hubbard, he also added that Sarah had been a member of the church for 40 years and had never observed her being unsuitable to be a Christian. The other 2 testimonies from John Hankinson and Samuel Sheaver both mentioned that they have never observed nor heard anything unsuitable about Sarah Buckley and how she was a very serious, godly woman. For Ann Putman trying to prove Sarah Buckley was a witch, they were Elizabeth Hubbard, Mary Walcott, and Benjamin Hutchinson. In Mary Walcott's deposition, she describes how she has been inflicted by Sarah and her daughter, and they had pinched, choked, and twisted her body. Then Mary talks about on the day of Sarah's examination, Sarah had sent her evil ghost to torment Mary for saying she was a witch. After describing all the times Sarah had inflicted her, Mary closes her deposition by saying Sarah was an evil witch who needed to be executed. The last deposition was from Benjamin Hutchinson, and he describes how his wife was inflicted by Sarah. He talks about how he went to go visit his neighbor, and when he returned, he said it looked like Sarah Buckley and Mary Withridge standing over his wife. His wife was on the ground screaming how she wouldn't sign the book for witches. Benjamin Hutchinson very much believed his wife was inflicted by Sarah and her daughter, and they were. Sarah Buckley was thrown in jail for 8 months. In January 1692, she was released from jail, and few possessions she had left were all seized. Although she wasn't found guilty, she was required to pay for the imprisonment, which left her family impoverished. After being released, she is no specific case. It was still very tragic that Sarah Buckley had her body defiled when examined for witch marks, being put in a small crowd prison for 8 months, and had all of her possessions seized. But after not being able to pay her debts, there was still triumph in this situation. The triumph in this case was her life wasn't wrongfully taken away from her, and she was a part of the event that let the people in Salem realize trials are wrong and unlawful. The trials had to be stopped. Cotton Mather was the man who proclaimed how unfair the trials were, and the court of Oyer and Terminator had to be shut down. Eventually, the trials came to a stop, and in 1702, the town of Salem apologized for what had happened in the past. The mistakes that were made were learned from and helped form the fair justice system we use today.